Welcome to the Supply Chain Pioneers podcast, where we highlight industry leaders on the forefront of innovation and technology in planning, procurement, and logistics. Hosted by your supply chain pro to know, Ulf Venn.
Supply Chain Pioneers is powered by Everstream Analytics. Everstream gives you the predictive insights and analytics to make your supply chain faster, smarter, safer, and leaner. Go to everstream.ai to book your demo today. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Supply Chain Pioneers. And with me today, I have Kevin Nelson, who's a senior operating partner and advisory board member at BioStream Medical Consulting. Welcome, Kevin.
Thanks for having me, Ulf.
Hi, Kevin, and Happy New Year, actually. Why don't we start with the classic? Quickly, you introduce yourself.
Great. Yeah, happy to. Again, thanks for having me on the podcast, Ulf. So I've been in procurement supply chain now for, believe it or not, 35 years. And my career has really spanned from starting in a high-tech environment, moving eventually into biotechnology, followed up by medical technology. And now, as you mentioned, I'm really an advisor and an operating partner with PE firms. So kind of a full spectrum in terms of my experience and everything. Most recently, my wife and I were living in Switzerland as head of supply chain for Becton Dickinson. And we just moved back to Massachusetts here a few months ago and enjoying this kind of next chapter in our lives. Really a wonderful career and excited about kind of the next steps as well.
Yes. And obviously, we're going to go through all of that, leverage a lot of the knowledge you acquired over the years in this podcast today, which is going to be a lot of fun. Great. So let's start with a very easy question. How did you actually end up in purchasing in the first place?
Yeah, I think I fell into it like I think a lot of people do. Again, going back 30 plus years ago, there really wasn't a degree in procurement where I was going to school at the time. Ended up going into computer science and started out as an analyst at a mortgage company in Boston and found it very boring, quite frankly. And there was a job opening in procurement as a buyer. I wasn't exactly sure what that was, but applied for it, got the role. And as you can say, I think the rest is history. So really found my niche there, enjoyed what I was doing, especially around the variety of the job and that every day was a little bit different and had new and unique problems to solve as well. So I fell into it like I think a lot of people do by accident and never left it.
Yeah, that's super interesting. So looking back on that period when you applied, did you have a proper understanding on what you're getting into, or was it more a little bit chance as well that then steered your passion afterwards?
I think it was a chance, and I think I was trying to get away from a role and a potential career that was not very exciting after putting my heart and soul into 4 years of getting a degree and finding out that computer science maybe was not what I was looking to do. And so I think I was looking more to get out of that as opposed to falling into this procurement role. But again, once I got into it, I really found that it was very exciting and interesting day.
Yeah, that's great. So you then, again, you were doing operational consulting. You first were doing operational purchasing, I'm sorry. Then
Yeah.
you went to consulting with IBM as a next step. So that's pretty interesting. What was your motivation to go from something you just identified as a new passion to then into a consulting role? And why did you pivot your career in that direction?
I think that was an accident too, and I think that's going to be what you're going to hear a lot in the session today. In that, I was the kind of traditional buyer, senior buyer, purchasing supervisor in high tech for quite a while, number of years, and eventually joining IBM as a contract manager, and then fell into this role of purchasing consultant, which really the role there was to help integrate their M&A tuck-ins to the company and found that fascinating. And that's really where I cut my teeth on really what is procurement and even supply chain and blending that with consulting, which is a lot of listening in terms of what are we trying to do and accomplish here. And that was different and refreshing from what I was doing in the traditional procurement, where this was really partnering with teams out there and trying to understand what are we trying to accomplish here? How is it going to help the company operate more effectively and efficiently going forward? And so the collaboration that came out of that was really essential to the rest of my career as well.
And were there any key learnings from that area that essentially helped you throughout the rest of your career?
Yeah, I think that was really the start of it, is that up to that point, I think traditional procurement had been, we're going to buy something, negotiate it, contract it, that type of thing. And what I was missing is the real collaborating with stakeholders at that time. And I think the consulting role was very heavily and intensive on consulting and collaborating with the stakeholder in terms of understanding what are we trying to do and accomplish here. So before you take off and try to negotiate savings, are we trying to actually do something differently? And I can get into more of that detail here as we go on, but that listening skill, it really started to happen at that point in my career.
Interesting. So let's go to the next step in your career, which is you went back to life science as a space. And it seems to be a space you really enjoyed because from there on out just was part of your career. What makes a space so special to you?
Yeah, I think I found my purpose. I was really enjoying high technology, and that was really fascinating to me. But again, it was an opportunity that kind of presented itself to me joining a biotech company in Cambridge, Massachusetts. And from day one, I found the purpose as very meaningful, where we were a new startup biotech company that was trying to launch an oncology product, and really being able to be part of that indirectly to help get this product launched and on the market, and then see patients who were literally coming forward to say that I was able to walk my son or daughter down the aisle for their marriage where I wouldn't have been able to had I not taken this therapy. That really was so powerful for me, in that I was even indirectly part of something that was bigger than anything I ever dreamt that I could do before. So that was definitely home, and finding a purpose that I could apply, at the time, procurement and some basic supply chain elements to really help bring products and therapies to the clinic and ultimately to the market faster and better.
That's great. As something I can resonate with, being in a family full of doctors, something I've heard before. But yeah, coming back to the role you picked up, right? It mixed a lot of your operational experience and your consulting experience into one more strategic role in purchasing, which I would argue at that time was more, that was something new essentially, right? A
Yeah.
strategic
Yep.
purchasing role. So what
Mhm.
are some of the key ingredients that you identified to run a successful strategic purchasing team that helps elevate a lot of the stuff that companies already thought they were doing for years?
Yeah, I think it probably goes back to what I mentioned a little bit ago, is that traditional procurement can be effective, but I think true strategic procurement can be extremely helpful for a company to achieve their goals. And what I mean by that is, I learned early on that being able to listen and collaborate and align your goals with your stakeholders is key and critical, where if you don't do that, oftentimes you'll hear from a stakeholder that procurement is a really good team, really good people, not exactly sure what they're delivering on for me, but they're really good people, right? When we align the goals and work together, that's when we can accomplish really great things. And I've seen that time and time again. I think this another area that I've learned over the time is putting the right people into the right roles. And what I mean by that is, not everyone is good at customer facing. Some might be very good at being analytical and maybe working on category strategies and things like that. And others have the charisma and personality to really go out and align with a stakeholder or a supplier and drive meaningful value. And then the third one, I think, is really the relationship building, which everyone falls back on that to say relationships are key. But again, I think the right relationship is a pull mentality, where the stakeholder sees you as someone that is critical and essential. You don't even have to know that you're in procurement or what function. They just know that you're aligned, you're a team member, you're marching in the same direction, and you're critical to them being successful as well. So I look at those three things as being essential in procurement that I've learned over my career.
Yeah, that's great. And it also gives me the perfect segue, which is good because you talked about relationships. Let's talk about some relationships that you had to establish because over the years, you gathered not only a lot of more responsibility, but also a lot more people that reported to you in your teams. So, how did you adapt your leadership style over time from going from one small team to a very big organization that you had to lead?
Yeah, I think it comes back to some people are going to have true authenticity and others are going to try to find it, right? I think associates are going to quickly see who has it or not. And those leaders who truly care about their teams and work with them to develop them, put their arm around someone when they're struggling, that type of thing is real. And I think associates see that. And if your team is two people or 2,000, I think that comes through. And you find that by being authentic and caring about your teams, people will run through walls for you. Again, making sure that, it's balanced and you're aligned correctly really can be very rewarding for both people, as opposed to maybe the leadership style that is really directing out of fear as a motivator. And that's where people will typically be working hard not to get in trouble and be always trying to defend and stay safe, if you will, as opposed to if they're really able to go out there and drive true innovation and being encouraged to do more and think outside the box. It's really a different process, if you will.
It's pretty interesting because, in general, I would say that a lot of people working in a procurement function often are a little bit risk averse. Let's be honest.
Mhm.
I think what you say totally, resonates with me, right? In order to make sure that they are confident in trying to do something new, driving a little bit of innovation, and not just buying the same product again because it's convenient and the supplier is somebody they know. I think that needs somebody with a leadership style, like you just said, because if you just do it out of fear, then yeah, it's going to be tough to achieve your savings.
Yep. Yep. Exactly.
Good. Love that. You're now working with a lot of different PE firms, primarily MedTech companies, obviously, but also you're hunting for the next big innovation, right? You're now using your leadership style and your mindset for driving the next innovation. What for you are some of the most looming technologies right now you're really excited about?
Yeah. This is where I think you'll hear the excitement where I think there are so many really exciting things happening in medtech today. And I find that the PE firms are really, for a couple of reasons, are really driving this on the leading edge, if you will. One is that they've got a lot of gunpowder, they've got a lot of capital and cash saved up where they can go after this and try to disrupt the market, if you will. And second, I think a lot of the larger medtech companies oftentimes are very thoughtful around technology and innovation, and what I mean by that is they're fearful of cannibalizing an existing product line. And therefore, they may be a little bit hesitant to launch something that's considered disruptive if it really will cannibalize something that might be very profitable today. So, in the PE environment that I've been in here, we worked on a number of different M&A projects that have been really exciting. Worked on several different new product developments as well that are really ranging from trying to create something that is good enough. And what I mean by that is oftentimes a product on the market will get overly engineered, and patients or hospitals will say, I really don't need that and I don't need to pay a premium for it. I'm looking for something that is good enough and competitively priced, if you will. So that's one area that we're focused on. The other end is really looking at very disruptive technologies here that are challenging therapies that have been on the market for 10, 20, 50 years, if you will, and trying to do it very differently. And there's some really cool technology around that. And then obviously AI is coming into play here too, in terms of how to gather information to accelerate the development process too, which is really very interesting as we go forward.
Super interesting. Again, thank you so much because it's a perfect segue talking about AI because essentially AI is not only disrupting medical device companies and medtech in general, but it's also disrupting purchasing, right? So if
Mhm.
you think about, I would call it the potential of AI right now. I'm not sure it has been super realized until now, but if you think about, okay, what AI probably could take over, how should somebody who's looking for a career in purchasing prepare for as a talent for AI? And what kind of career path would you recommend to them? Is it consulting? Is it that's a skill set that's more needed in the future? Or what is it that they will need in the looming AI world?
Yeah. I think we need to embrace AI. Some of us are still trying to figure out exactly what it's going to do and how it's going to help or hinder. I think what I found is that embracing it is going to be the key to success going forward. So if you think back to the traditional procurement, we would oftentimes, as a category manager, work for months and months on creating a category strategy. And that category strategy was going back to the typical seven step process with Carney. And you would do your market profile, your buy profile, and that could literally take 3, 5, 6 months to create a strategy that you would be working occasionally with a stakeholder. And by the time you got done, 9 times out of 10, it was like, it's obsolete or we already moved on and so forth. I found that I've used ChatGPT a number of times now to create a strategy. And I've been able to create a strategy in the matter of a week or two, and even faster than what used to take up to 9 months to do before. And the information that we're gathering here is usually good enough to go in and say, we have an understanding now of the market profile, the competitiveness of the market, the supply base, their strengths and weaknesses, that we can put together a strategy for success here that can help us do a number of things. So procurement can and should be focused on more than savings. It could be on how this can now create additional capacity or reduce scrap with a supplier, number of different benefits there, process improvements as well to really help reduce a back order. All these different elements can be now incorporated into your strategy that goes beyond just the savings kind of focus. And that again is where a stakeholder comes back and says, now you're speaking my language. I wasn't really necessarily looking at savings before because I have a high margin product here. My focus was staying on a back order. So this is allowing, I think, us to think differently and incorporate and develop strategies that are much more meaningful as we move forward. I also would look at the supply chain side in that something as simple as forecast accuracy, which was done by looking at historical patterns and so forth. We were able to incorporate AI into looking at all these different parameters externally, and our forecast accuracy went up double digits very quickly, which really helped. And if you're a big manufacturing company, that forecast accuracy is so critical to make sure that you're manufacturing the right product so you don't manufacture too much or too little of the wrong product that's going to sit on the shelf or be out of stock, if you will. So it really, I think, is going to be a significant opportunity for folks in supply chain and procurement going forward.
Interesting. I just had a thought about this while you were answering, and that is, do you think the role of a purchaser or in supply chain in general will change in a different way actually, which is traveling, right? Because if you now don't need so much time to do like the analysis, run the process and so on, is it then that you just have more time to go into warehouses, suppliers, and really get very operational and very down to removing scrap, which that AI can't help you because they don't have the data for what is the problem on site, right? You have to go there and check essentially.
Yep.
Is that-
Yeah, I think great point here. And I think that's really where the breakthrough is going to happen. And I was seeing that here the last year and a half working at my last company, in that by being able to get rid of some of the non-value add work, it allowed me to go and start to go in procurement and supply chain to meet with our customers who were hospitals around the nation, and met with over 100 customers in the US, and sitting down as a consultant with them to say, how can we work better with you? What can we do that's going to be able to provide product that meets your needs in a more timely way at a price point that's more effective as well? That was so helpful because I could take that information back and create a more accurate forecast accuracy back to our manufacturing plant, where they could manufacture the product that was going to be 99% in stock and available for that customer. And we could also then create maybe delivery modes and methodologies that were going to be delivering product on an auto replenishment type of basis as well. And taking that all the way back through to our supply base where we all had better visibility was very key and critical. We were not able to do that before because before we had people that had to spend, again, in procurement, 9 months working on a category strategy. They didn't have time to go back and work with a supplier on operational efficiencies. They were sitting at their desk trying to create the strategy. We had supply chain people that were working on forecast planning where they didn't have the time to go meet with a customer or with the manufacturing plant to try to bridge the gap in terms of how we can drive more efficiencies here. So I think this will be the breakthrough that allows us to think more end to end and drive a more efficient supply chain process from beginning to end.
So it's not replacing humans, it's just freeing it up essentially for you.
Absolutely. Yeah, and some will augment and some will be replacing, right? So if you think about some of the more tactical work here, I would encourage someone that's maybe new in their career that's doing tactical procurement is that embrace it. If you can automate this tactical piece, it's going to allow you to be able to step forward to say, hey, maybe I can get more into strategy and some of the Kaizen work that might be happening with the suppliers too. It's going to be more fun and exciting for most of the associates as well.
Yeah, totally agree. Okay, we're now at the fun part of this podcast where I always like to ask a hobby question. And for you, I think there's an obvious one. Also, given your background, what has a day on a lake fishing, maybe a duck is around, some fishes as well. What does that have to do with working in a MedTech supply chain?
I think for me, it's just the ability to step out of the day's chaos. And the ideal day for me would be, I guess you're seeing in the background here, is just being close to nature. And we happen to fortunately live close to the water in Massachusetts. And for me, being able to be out on the water here, fishing or just enjoying the outdoors is really my happy place, if you will. If I can get up and see the sunrise on a boat, it's really quite a feeling for me. And my wife loves to come along as well. We really enjoy that time together.
Yeah. If I see a sunrise, I cry because I'm up too early. So I'm not a morning person. So very different, very funny.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah. Kevin, thank you so much for doing this. I hope that was a fun experience for you.
That was my pleasure. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And everybody who's listening or watching or however you're enjoying this podcast, first of all, Happy New Year. And second, thank you for watching and have a good afternoon, evening, night, morning, wherever you are. And with that, bye-bye.
Take care.
This was Supply Chain Pioneers. Thanks for watching, listening, or however you are enjoying this podcast. You can find Supply Chain Pioneers on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all other major podcast players, as well as on YouTube at Ulf Talk Supply Chain. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. See you next time.